Greetings! In this video, we will cover a set of tools that will help you push the visual quality. We will get to see how to simulate reflections, creating atmosphere with fog, and add screen effects such as chromatic aberrations, lens flares, and some color corrections. Let's jump right in. Because reflections are traditionally computer intensive, Unreal uses two tricks to fake reflections. The first trick, enabled by default, is called Screen Space Reflection, or SSR for short. It is a way to display an upside-down image of our screen on glossy surfaces. Since this trick works only with what is on screen, limitations are obvious when looking at the edge of the display because there is no data to reflect. The next trick is reflection captures. They can be thought of as a camera taking a 360-degree snapshot from its location and reprojecting that image on its surroundings. Before going further, you should know that reflection captures heavily depends on lighting. This means that you should have a good lighting foundation in place before working on reflections. There are three types of reflection captures available. The first is called the box reflection capture. This actor will reproject what it sees using box mapping, making it suitable for flat surfaces like walls, floors, and ceilings. The next type is called sphere reflection capture. As you might have guessed, this one casts reflection using spherical mapping, making it suitable to display reflections on curvy and round surfaces. Going in the detail panel, you will notice that both of these actors share more or less the same settings. The box reflection features a box transition distance to blend multiple captures, and the spherical reflection features an influence radius to limit reflection contribution. Both of them let you decide if you want to capture the scene for reflections or instead use a custom texture. A brightness property is also available to make the reflection captures more noticeable or subtle. The third type, however, is a bit different. The planar reflection capture is designed to display mirror-sharp reflections on large flat surfaces. When placed in the level, you might get an error. This is because this actor requires a setting disabled by default. When enable it, go to Edit, Project Settings, scroll down to the Rendering category, and in the Lighting tab, enable Support Global Clip Plane for planar reflections. You will need to restart the engine for changes to take effect. On reopening, Unreal will compile shaders for a while, and you will see the planar reflection working. This capture should be placed just above the surface and cover all the area we want to affect. Now what you see is a preview. To see how it will look in the final render, hit G for Game View. This is much better. In the detail panel, various settings can improve the look of our reflection. The first time you play with reflection captures, you might be tempted to throw them around carelessly, but they actually can hinder performance when there is too much overlapping. An approach to achieve quality with minimum overlapping is to work from large to small. Let's go over an example. So the first step is to place in a general capture. The scene I'm working on today is made of corridors and rooms, so it makes sense to use a box capture in that case. Scale it so everything is within the capture boundaries. Right now, we see a preview of our reflections. To see the final result, we need to build reflection captures. To do this, just reach the Build Options menu at the top and click on Build Reflection Captures. This process should be really fast. With our global capture in place, let's do medium-sized captures. I will place one for each room, large enough so it fits. Make sure to build your reflections from time to time so you can see the final quality. For better control, it is possible to visualize reflections only. For that, change the view mode to reflection. After all that, let's move on to small captures for details. For that task, I tend to prefer spherical captures as it works really well to add details like these. Change the influence radius so they are small and move them around area of interest to find which position gives the best results. And that's pretty much it. As a reminder, make sure to build your reflection captures to see the final result, and that's it. Now let's talk about another effect that will add atmosphere, the fog actor. Unreal uses a few types of actors to simulate fog. The first one is called atmospheric fog. Search it in the Place Actor panel and drag it into your scene. Its location in the world is not really relevant as the effect is applied everywhere. This will generate haze in the distance, simulating the tiny particles floating in the atmosphere. To use atmospheric fog, experiment with the settings to achieve a variety of looks. Our second type of fog is called the exponential height fog. The main difference is the density will increase from the ground to the sky, creating a vertical gradient. Its settings will let you control density, the transition from clear to dense, or overall color. Use second fog data to create a secondary layer of fog, great for outdoor scenes. Now let me introduce you to one really cool effect, which is called volumetric fog. Turn on volumetric fog in the category of the same name, and now your lights will scatter volumetric lighting, giving really cool results. It features a few properties to play with, essentially defining volumetric thickness, but one important thing you should know about is that movable and stationary lights have controls over how much they should scatter through fog. Simply find the volumetric scattering intensity to boost the effect on individual lights. Finally, you now have a third actor called the sky atmosphere, a type of fog that is physically accurate. For best results, use with a directional and skylight. Moving the sun around will change the sky to believable colors and have more control to simulate dense or smog-like atmosphere. Now you have the reflections, the fog, and now let's talk about the icing on the cake, the post-process volume. You can find the post-process volume in the Place Actor panel. Basically, this is a box that will display effects only when we are inside it. This means that we can have multiple post-processing volume and blend between them. To start, you can scale the volume to get everything within the box. Alternatively, it is possible to make the volume affect the whole scene. In the Details panel, use the search bar to find a property called Unbound and switch it on. In the Lens category, you will find settings emulating lenses of real cameras. Enable bloom to add a glowing effect to very bright light sources. Exposure allows you to define eye adaptation when moving from light to darkness. If you don't want the exposure to change, simply input 1 as a value for min and max EV100 and enable exposure compensation to get the right amount of light. Chromatic aberrations simulates the fringing effect on images captured by real-world lenses. Dirt mask will add dust and dirt on your lens based on a texture. Lens flare can surely add a dramatic look to your action scenes. You can also darken the corner of your image using the vignette and simulate film noise if this is what you're aiming at. If you're not at ease tweaking colors by yourself, Unreal has a feature to use lookup table. This allows you to color correct in other softwares like Photoshop and export your changes using a small texture called LUT. Those are available on the internet and many offers some great cinematic looks. The Ambient Cue Map lets you use a texture to add ambient lighting if you feel like it. Ambient Occlusion will create contact shadows, helping you to ground your objects and blend everything together. If you need more global illumination, try raising the indirect lighting intensity to illuminate your scene even more. Motion blur will create blurred image when moving around, just like in the movies. Screen space reflections will improve the quality of the SSR but won't matter for your reflection captures. Finally, in Miscellaneous, you can upsample a rendered sequence to get more definition, but be aware that it may cause the editor to crash when pushed too high. And that was an overview of the features the post-process volume has to offer. But before ending this lesson, there is something else you should know. Every cameras created have the same capabilities as the post-process volume. They also feature real-world camera adjustments if you are a photography enthusiast. With a camera selected, reach the Detail panel to change focal length, image format, or depth of field. Depth of field is a feature enabled by default that has a lot of impact on your final result. While cameras and the post-process volume shares a lot of capabilities, I would suggest to use the post-process volume only for colors and screen effects and keep the cameras to dial in the focus, exposure, and depth of field. Otherwise, it can become a mess to troubleshoot your effects. And this wraps it up for that one. I hope what you've learned gave you inspiration for your scene and use these features to give a unique vibe to your projects. So until then, take care and have fun with it.